I got banned for a week for that. Okay, we're live on YouTube and I'm going to start recording here. So, hi everybody, welcome to the GoldFish Report. No, it's not really, actually, it's not. There it is. There we go. There we go. Okay, hold on. Let me get back. Here we go. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. Sorry about that. We're trying to get ourselves synced up here. I'm your host, Louisa, host and researcher, Louisa. Today, now this is funny. Get ready. Today is Thursday, October 1st, 2020, and it's also Friday, October 2nd, 2020, where our guest is in Australia. This is Down Under with Tim Emslie. How you doing, mate? Good to see you. It's been a long time.
Good, you too. Yeah, it's been quite a while. I think it's been like 3 months, but a very quick 3 months. I think it's just gone by so fast, like almost like it was 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's how quick it feels.
And I'll tell you, it's been a long, I don't know, I haven't even looked at my channel's list, but I think it's been a while since we've had an update. And you know what? I'm sorry Steve can't be here with us because we like to do America, Austria, and Australia, but we don't have the Austria part because of our time zone difference. Tim is already in Friday, October 2nd. We're still in the northern Western Hemisphere here, the Thursday, October 1st. You know, it's a full moon, harvest moon, Tim, today. People are driving crazy. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Oh, yep. See, our live chat friends are telling us that they have a pre-election Facebook ban, and we know also that there's some people getting banned on Twitter. I'm telling you guys, we are walking on eggshells right now in terms of what we can and can't say. And unfortunately, I had to, brief Tim on what the latest status is with this GoldFish Report channel. So, but we are, the question is, what's going on in Australia? We're hearing a lot of things about the measures getting very extreme down there in terms of, having the right to go in and take the children out of the homes or the schools, which was reported in New Zealand, because we do have New Zealand listeners here. Yeah, so tell us what's going on, Tim. Yeah, just what's your experience? You were telling me an experience right before we started.
Okay, yeah. So yesterday, I'm in New South Wales, not Victoria. So everything I find out about Victoria is from people I know there and through media. But yeah, my own experience yesterday, I went to a hospital where they had one of those cameras set up like they do in the airport with customs. I got to the suite where the doctor is. I had my mask in my pocket because, well, I had to wear the mask going into the hospital. But once I got into the waiting room, I took it off because it's just hard to breathe in. And I saw the receptionist and doctor. Actually, I can't remember if they were wearing them or not. I think everyone had just arrived. But I said to the doctor when he said, Tim, I said, yes. And he said, well, come on in. And I said, do you want me to wear a mask or not? And his answer was, well, I have to wear a mask. Maybe you should wear one too. And I said, yeah, no, I'll wear one then. So to me, all I'm worried about with mask wearing is courtesy to others' beliefs, in not to make people afraid or uncomfortable. So for me, the mask is about protecting other people from their own fears rather than, I have no fear of a virus of such kind because of the statistics. In fact, I find the flu's right down. Even driving into, I don't know if you've noticed this too, but a lot of the shopping centre car parks before this all happened were push button. Some more modern ones were automatic, but the ones who haven't upgraded their entrance boom gate machines to just automatic, where it takes a photo of your number plate and does it all on a special computer. What they've done now is they've kept the old push button but they've put a sensor in the little round push button, like a doorbell button, that you just wave your hand in front of, and they've put a little sticker up the top to say wave your hand. So, you know, all these people who are driving in droves into
Can
the
you wave it like that?
supermarkets.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can you wave it like
was I
that?
using that finger?
You need to wave a hand? Okay, I got something for you here.
Yeah, that was code.
Code.
No.
That's the Jersey girl in me. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I
Called
did
the
that once.
bird.
You know, I did that once to a cop, and I didn't even know it was a cop when I used to work in New York City. And I was no. This is a story. This is a story. I got to tell you this. Now, my car. I bought this lemon car when I was younger, and it used to overheat all the time. And I was going through the Holland Tunnel, and the car broke down in the Holland Tunnel going into New York City. And so the tunnel truck had to come and just push me out of the way, and it left me right in front of the first precinct. And anybody knows, and I didn't
Yeah.
know, right? You know, of course, my car was broken down, and I couldn't move. All right, this is one of my car stories, guys. You have to know that I've got this series of car stories from this car that I had that was a nightmare, and all the different places I broke down, and all the different stories that I have. The pantyhose story is another one, another day, not today. But this one was where I was broken down. I was broken down in front of the first precinct, and this guy behind me was like beeping his horn, get out of the way, get out of the way. You know, it's New York City. And I was like, I can't. I put my hands up in the air like this. I'm like, didn't you just see the tunnel truck push me out? And the guy, I couldn't see the car. His bumper was on my bumper, so I couldn't even see his car in my rearview mirror. And he's beeping and beeping, and I, you know, that's what I did. I flipped him the bird, you know, because I'm like, I already told, I was like putting my hands up in the air. I was what, I don't know, I was what, 19, 18 years old, right? Little sassy Jersey girl. and he backs up and pulls up next to me and holds up his badge because
Oh my God.
it was an undercover cop, and it was a detective, and I'm like, well, how was I supposed to know? I mean, well, it is
Exactly.
the first precinct, but I was broken down. And he comes out like, license and registration insurance. So I like take all my papers out and give it to him. And he goes into the first precinct. I had some parking tickets at the time because I used to work as a makeup artist, and I would, you know, have to unload my car to get my gear out and stuff. I used to airbrush makeup. I started that. I had worked for Clairol,
Mhm.
and I was airbrushing makeup for all the big shows and stuff. And so I'd have a compressor that was heavy, and I'd have to park the car. I mean, you can't just, you know, walk 10 blocks with this thing. So,
Yeah.
I had a few parking tickets. So he comes out and he throws my papers at me, and he's like, "You're in enough trouble." And he's like, you know, he's like, "If you were my daughter, I blah blah blah. You better not do that again. Don't ever give the cop a finger." And I'm like, "Buddy, man, I'm broken down. Give me a break, okay? I didn't know you were a cop."
No.
Sorry, I had to tell you my story because that came up.
Yeah, that's funny. You reminded me of someone I met from Australia who went on a holiday to America and was driving across America, got pulled over, and they were able, I don't know what state, I can't remember what state of America it was, but in their patrol car of such, they were able to print out some of the history of speed fines and things here in Australia, and then they were picking on him about the ones in the jurisdiction of Australia. Wasn't even to do with that state or the whole of the US of A. It was to do with history in Australia, and they were questioning that, and I thought that was pretty profound, actually.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you find out?
Oh, I mean, this is a story I got told back around when I was working in a place, 2000, the Summer Olympics in Sydney. So that's around the year 2000. So it's a 20-year-old story. Yeah. But yeah, just the idea of it, you know, just the idea that in this other country they could pull up someone's driving history from another country and then question that person on that. I thought that was, at the time, that was like, wow, you know.
I can't imagine driving on the opposite side of the road, though. You guys are,
Well,
you know, it's kind of wild just to see it. Like and you're even the car, it's on the opposite side of the car. So, and opposite side of the road. So that I haven't
yeah,
driven.
I,
I have
I've,
driven in another country. I was in Germany, but that was on the same side of the road. Germany is
okay,
like
yeah,
the
like France and
American, yeah.
yeah. I've been to LA just for like 24 hours, but I was in South America, in Peru and Ecuador, and yeah, crossing the road, you look the wrong way, you step out, and nearly, you know, you're like half a foot from being hit by someone at 60k. I did that a few times, and then you go, oh, that was close, and then you look up, and they're all looking out the window at you, like, what is that white man doing?
Crazy driver. Must be from
Because, you
Jersey.
know, they're all Hispanic, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, the blue-eyed gringo, what is he doing?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and then there was Cambodia. I went from Thailand to Cambodia, and that was crossing over, and we were using steering wheel on the right side, but driving on the opposite side, the same side as you guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, and here in Australia, my cousin had a what do you call it, left side steering wheel. So
such an
I
odd
got
thing.
to drive. It's really weird driving with being on the outside, closer to where the trees are rather than the center line. That's a little bit hairy. But driving on the same side as us, but being on the left-hand side using like a US car on our roads, that was pretty weird. But yeah, and it's funny when you have guests from another country that are on the opposite side,
you know,
when
our
they go to get in
postman,
the passenger side. Is that what you're going to say?
our postman has the mailman here have the driving on the right side because they have to pull up to mailboxes. So they're steering only the postmen have steering wheels on the right side generally.
I think we have the same with some of the sweeping truck machines, and maybe the garbage truck. I'm not sure, but some of the council, like local council cleaning and maintenance vehicles are like that. But yeah, I've had plenty of people say from America who went to get in the car, and they're walking around the same side as me because I got the keys and I'm driving right, but they're following me, and I'm like, "Are you getting in the back seat behind me?" And they're like, "Oh no, sorry."
yeah, it's kind of wild. But so anyway, how's the brush fire status down there? Is it okay this year?
Nothing much happening. There's been a few fires in the north of Victoria, and I haven't heard about any in Queensland, but there have already been some. But the humidity, we have a high humidity at the moment because of the El Nino, whatever you call it. But there's been a switch in the weather, so we're expecting a very wet. Possibly a very wet October, November, December. I think we're going to be dealing, I think what in the weeks to come, when you're thinking, or if you're talking to me, you're not going to be saying, "Hey, Tim, how's the fires there? Looks like you're following what just happened in California." I think it'll be like, how the flood's going. I think if there's going to be fires, I think we're going to look at January, February, March for that sort of event with severe fires. Or it could be that all this flooding and extra rain that we're expected to get is only in certain areas, and so you have places that are completely having biblical floods, and we're meant to have something like 20 cyclones, which are basically hurricanes.
Right.
There's 20 or so lined up. That's for the east coast, for far north Queensland, and that's for the Northern Territory at the middle top, and the northwest coast of Western Australia. So those three areas have their own, they're three independent cyclone lanes, hurricane lanes. So that's going to be exceptionally busy, which will be catastrophic to, probably agriculture and power and all sorts of things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think, but then other areas, if we've got the heat and other areas haven't been rained on, we could have fires and floods at the same time.
Hmm.
So let's
Wow.
just see what happens.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, last year was so tough. That was so, so tough. And whatever happened, how was there any like, because right now California is going through it. I mean, California is being burned to a crisp.
Yeah.
We know, Tim, that Dutch Sense, who is a independent, a journalist. I mean, an independent geologist, I would say. I don't know if that is that if that's how he refers to himself, but he was showing. It just happened to be caught on radar that he was finding basically these directed energy beams that were leading directly to the fires. And he doesn't know where it was coming from, whether it was in space, because you can't tell three-dimensional on those. It's not a three-dimensional map, so you don't know if it was coming from land. You don't know if it was coming from air or what. But
Okay. Yep.
within about 2 or 3 days, the Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, announced that China and Russia have satellite-based weapons, laser weapons, directed energy weapons, in fact. So it was admitted. He did come out a couple days after Dutch published that and admitted that they had these directed energy weapons. He didn't say whether or not we had them, but he did say that that China and Russia had them, and that we. I guess it was making the argument for the fact that we needed to have up the ante. I mean, we can't let them have weapons that we don't have because they'll supersede us.
Mm.
So, and that
And
seems to be what's racing this whole thing with the Space Force and everything else too, is the fact that they don't want China to have supremacy. You know what I mean? A military supremacy, or even probably Russia. But I think we just need to come together as one world somehow, not as a new world order, but
yeah,
it's
a
enough of
military
this.
space race.
Ah, yeah, but I mean, I could see us having to defend ourselves from other intruders from outside of our off planet, But from within our own planet, we should all be Earthlings, right? You'd think.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I can't think of a name right now, but um, is her name Braddon or something? She worked for NASA, and she had this quote saying that the last stage will be the fake alien invasion and so on. But she was talking years ago. Um, Now, she's quite well known for her work. Very, like a real thick, blonde, wavy hair.
Mhm.
But she'd probably be in her 50s or 60s or something now. Um, but she did mention converting all the world's military forces into some sort of unified space defense exploration, basically a space exploration that is also a military force for planetary defense,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
everyone who's in it is a part of the infrastructure towards
Right.
exploring space.
Well,
So it turns all the militaries, instead
mm,
of being positioned in the archaic form that we know today to fight in that old mindset, that old energy
mm,
of fighting against each other, but rather to be collectively working toward
excuse me.
protecting the planet and exploring
Well,
space.
I just want to show you. I did do some reporting, on some space policy. And I'm going to screen share something since
Yes.
you seem to be interested in this. Um, this was something I had reported on quite a while ago, and this is called it's a law now, HR 1508. This was Space
Hmm.
Resource Exploration and Utilization Act, and this was assigning rights to entrepreneurs, space entrepreneurs. These were for mining rights, for mining asteroids. So, and it does go into details of the purpose of this. This gives you a little this gives you a little background on what the law is, right?
Yep.
Facilitates the commercial exploration and utilization of space resources to meet national needs, like what you're saying. Discourage government barriers to the development of economically viable, safe, and stable industries for the exploration and utilization of space resources in manners consistent with the existing international obligations of the United States, and promotes the right of the U.S. commercial entities to explore outer space and utilize space resources in accordance with such obligations, free from harmful interference, and to transfer or sell such resources. So when they say define space resource as a natural resource of any kind found in place in outer space, I think the recommendation is allocation of responsibilities. All right, and so this was part of a larger bill, which was this was part of a larger bill. Let me just pull this one up, which was HR 2262, because I did some research. I actually wrote a research paper on this. HR 2262, which I think was the, yeah, no, that's not it. When I find it, I'll let you know. I have to go back and search. This was part of that bill. Yeah. Refined by
Yeah.
HR 22. Here it is right here. Hold on. HR 22.
I guess there's some logic, and I think on some level there's a good thing about mining asteroids is that they seem to be dead zones anyway. It's just
Yeah.
broken up rock, like you see the raw rock that's inside, say, our planet. See, I guess planets with atmospheres and water and plants and living beings, they're living planets. So maybe, like we have a quarry, which is some hill, we have it away from, when there's the question of interfering in the environment. But it does make logic sense that a spacefaring peoples would require resources. And if they're not manifesting that out of nothing but the ether, if they're not at that level yet, then mining from a junkyard of pure rocks is
There it is.
probably better than going to someone else's planet
Mm.
where you've got blue skies, you've got oceans, rivers, you've got all these plants and all this beauty, and then mining from there. It would make sense to leave living biospheres alone and go for the rocks that aren't habitable zones. It
Yeah.
sort of makes sense.
Hmm.
I know it's still political, but
No, well, here's another one though, but it's a good point that that we're just talking about it, because here it is, the U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act. So the HR 1508 was included in this, and I just happened to do, when I was in graduate school for public policy, I just happened to pick this topic to do a research paper on, and this talks about Competitive Entrepreneur Act of 2015. This talks about develop a plan and update methodology used to calculate the maximum number commercial space launch liability claims. What this did was this is established like a legal jurisdiction, so that all space issues that happened around Earth are actually dealt with in a U.S. court. And so they're bound to U.S. Space laws, quite honestly. So it'll be heard in a United States court. So it's very interesting talking about reusable launching materials, and also this talks about space traffic. I mean, these are just terms we have to get used to, because we're moving into the future, and space, there's going to be more future for space, and it's going to be very interesting. And here they do talk about uh, mining asteroids, and when I find it, I'll let you know. But this was a, yeah, okay, commercial remote sensing. So what does that mean? Is that talking about remote sensing? Does that mean spy satellites? Could, right? Office of Space Commerce, things of that nature. So it's really great to talk about it, because it is our future. And when we get more have more time, we can get into that. But
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, what else is new? Well, that was what was going on. I mean, did that reverse remote sensing? Satellites. Did that refer to directed energy weapons? I don't know. I don't know. But
Yeah.
Tim, they always have patents. We always seem to find patents on all this crazy technology the military uses. Some of them, anyway.
Yeah. It's definitely, um, it's without proof of existence, it's more feasible to believe in the reality of it than to not. So I'm personally, I always go for the assumption that it's real. Other people probably think I'm completely lost the plot from the old way of thinking for doing that. But I mean, by assuming they have that stuff, it then allows you to take your mind further than it was. You're not sort of limiting yourself, and so it allows you to be open. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
So
But
anyway,
you might be onto something, yeah.
mm. So anyway, is there any announcement from your government about relaxing the rules that are imposed on you with regard to the masks and the temperature taking and things like that?
There has been, there's been a number of things. So New South Wales has been getting more and more relaxed because the numbers seem to be um, decreasing,
Yeah.
and people are behaving pretty much like they're just over it and they're used to it, and there's nothing really to be scared of. But you won't find everyone being that way. It's a mixed boat. Um, but everyone's all, say, in an arena like a shopping centre
Mm.
where all these different people are mixed in. It's like multiple perspectives on it, all mixed into one, where the people don't care and other people do, and so on. But with some of the governments, the South Australian government opened its borders um,
Mm.
with New South Wales, because it has if you have a look at a map of Australia, people can get into South Australia directly from New South Wales, but they're keeping the border with Victoria closed until that changes. I've got a little story about Victoria actually that you'll find interesting. Um, I don't know what's happening with Western Australia or Northern Territory. I think Queensland and New South are in communication about relaxing other certain things. But Victoria is perceived on a national perspective as being the hotspot.
Mm.
But
Mm.
someone posted something which I posted recently, which was that they were watching a sitting of Parliament, which was in Canberra, where all our politicians have these debates and carry on like a bunch of teenage, idiots, if you ask me. Just
Mhm.
the whole consciousness there is pretty low, and just arguing and, basically, it's like they're all there enjoying this egocentric bashing of each other and bashing each other down, when it should be about really taking serious things about, a population of people, not bashing each other for getting up and doing a speech. It's all like oligarchs trying to
Mhm.
impress each other's persons rather than looking after us.
Mhm.
But getting back to this anyway, during one of those parliamentary verbal bashings that
Mhm.
they do,
Mhm.
it was brought up that the Premier of Victoria, um, Dan Andrews, or Cult of Dan, or Dictator Dan, as there's all these different nicknames being formed, for the People's Republic of Victoria,
Despicable
quote.
Dan? No, whatever.
Yeah, that one hasn't happened yet. But see, what happened in the beginning, they think the reason why the COVID count got so high, and this is all through the media, is apparently the police force offered to do the services for being the security at the hotel quarantine
Mm-hmm.
for all these international flights that had come in. But Dan Andrews didn't accept, this is just what I heard, Dan Andrews didn't accept the police force's offer. I think it might have even been the federal police. So the feds are the national police which have a national jurisdiction, not a state jurisdiction. But I'm not sure about that. It might have been state police or fed police. Anyway, that was knocked back, and it was some company, just a company that employed a lot of Indian security guards. And often when you think that, people stereotype and go, oh, if it's just a security guard company full of Indians, then and not other nationalities, then they've opted to get paid something like $10 an hour instead of 25, which is often true, although people will say you're not allowed to talk about that because that's discrimination. But it's the same thing with Mexico and people coming in to do work, washing dishes for, $3 or something instead of $12 American. So, same thing. So, it was found out that some of these Indian security guards were sleeping with some of the girls in quarantine.
Oh,
So,
oh my goodness.
that might have been like some of these back in the day. We've got this sport called cricket, and we often had these hot Indian cricketers that, it was like the white girl attracted to the black basketballer man type thing going on, a bit of that. But anyway, moving back to the bigger picture of this. So that's how it all got spread. But now it comes to light that Dan Andrews knocked back the police offering for security, and that the company he got supplied, that as far as the tendering, there was apparently no tendering as such. Tendering was bypassed, and he gave the job to a mate whose daughter works for the Labor Party, which is the same party that Dan Andrews belongs to, as far as when we choose a new Prime Minister. We've got the two sides like you guys have got. So we've got Liberal and Labor, and you've got Democrat and Republican. And ours is sort of complicated, but back to front, where the Liberals are meant to be conservative, but they're sort of not. Anyway, I won't go into that. I actually seem to know more about American structure than ours, because I just don't give a damn about it, because I know it's all full of shit. So why bother?
Well, let me tell you, I mean, what happened, I've been reporting about this, but I'm going to see if I can get this on the screen. I should email this, but it could take some time. Can you see that? This is a security guard outside
Yes.
of let me see if that's working, outside of Apple. I had to take my phone to get service. Let's see. And this is what happens when you go to Apple. Right outside of the store,
Yeah.
inside the mall, you're met with you're cordoned off, and you're met with security guards who, there's a series of them. I didn't get them all in the picture, but you're met with security guards who strictly enforce the mask wearing. They check your temperature. There's another person there to check your temperature, and then there's a whole series of questions that you have to. There's a whole series of questions that you have to answer regarding who you've been with or around. Have you been with anyone who's sick? Have you been quarantined? Have you been, have you been sick? Has anyone around you been sick? I mean, you have to answer. I mean, we're 10 months into this, right? Since the first COVID case was diagnosed, and the numbers have dropped exponentially. So, but this is what happens. And then, because I have a lung condition, I can't wear the mask covering my nose completely, but I had it on. It was covering my mouth. It was covering up to my nose. But I just can't have it completely covered, and so they refused to service me if I didn't have it
Wow.
covering my face completely. I had an appointment, and I mean, I wear that mask that way everywhere I go, everywhere else that I go, and it's really not that much of it's really not an issue. Um, and but so it just goes to show you that Apple, there's, I think that they're, and I could swear that the people who were working there were definitely liberals, no question about it, because they took, and they almost, the manager of that store almost took pleasure um, in telling me I can get serviced online. And I said, "No, I need a battery replacement. I can't get serviced online." So, they denied me service even though I was wearing my face mask. I had most of my lower face covered. Uh and by the way, when you do see these, you must wear a face covering. It doesn't tell you what the requirements are. It doesn't tell you that your nostrils have to be covered. It doesn't say anything like how much of your face has, nothing like that. So it's very arbitrarily enforced. So that's been a problem.
Mm.
And I have had issues with people, like initially with the mask situation too. It's just, not that I wasn't wearing it. It's just that they didn't like how I was wearing it, or when I had it covering my nose and they couldn't hear what I was saying, I just pulled it away from my face. It was still on, but I pulled it away from my face so they could hear me better. And I'm telling you, the Nazi comes out in these people. It's just unbelievable sometimes, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yep.
It's getting
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
I think things aren't that's as strict here. I have walked past an Apple office, but
Yeah.
it didn't seem as bad as that. But they have a lot of QR codes at the entrances. So a lot of businesses, they've put up a little table, and they have the antiseptic bottle there. So as every shop you go into,
Uh-huh.
you can
Hand
squirt the stuff on your
sanitizer.
hand, clean
Yep.
it,
Hmm.
sanitizer, and they have it at the entrance of every shopping
Hmm.
center now,
Hmm.
and in every lift.
Hmm.
And and I've got my own spray that I carry too, but
All right.
I've become a bit relaxed in the last week because the more and more I go out, I think this is all this isn't
Hmm.
really real. So I'm sort of slipping the habit of the spray even. But there will be places where I would go where I might be questioning, like, oh well, this is a concentrated area where there's been stories in the media of cases, so maybe I'd better sanitize. But yeah, the QR codes are there for most businesses where you have to put your information in. But I've watched other people pretend to do it,
Hmm.
and only some venues, like sometimes you just want to walk into a pub or a bar just to
Hmm.
use a toilet because you might be walking around somewhere and
Yeah.
you're busting,
To
for a
go.
pee. So you simply want to go into a place that has public toilets, and so in order to do that, you walk in and then they all run at you and say, "Hang on, hang on, hang on! You before you come in, you need to scan this." And when you've scanned it and filled out the QR code information, which takes you to a Safari site, and then you fill out the form for that venue. Only some of the venues ask you to
Hmm.
hold up the phone to show evidence that you've completed the form. Not everyone cares about that. In fact, there's some places where you walk in where um, it's sort of meant to be mandatory to fill out these QR code forms, but then some people don't even get their phones out of their pocket and ignore it. They're still served. They're probably not meant to be, but I think people aren't paying attention and everyone's just not caring, because I think on some higher level, everyone knows it's all, not warranted, probably. But then in other places, they're very fiercely making sure that
Yeah.
you're wearing it. But yeah, like I went for this walk and there was this really nice place where people like to eat and drink,
Hmm.
and there was loud music going and everyone's partying, and there was like a courtyard full
Hmm.
of drinkers, and they have a maximum amount of people that can be in there. But to me, it seemed pretty full.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll tell you, I'm telling you, I think the world wants to get back to normal as quick as possible. We want to, we do hope that this has been, sadly, it's exploited on both ends. If this is being used to do some, white hat operations, then that's good. But you also know that it's going to be exploited by those that have more nefarious, plans and agendas. And we did an interview this morning with Ben Fulford,
yeah,
who that will be out very soon, and uh, his opinion was that what happened in Wuhan wasn't related to the virus, but it was basically a 5G depopulation experiment, which
mm,
seems, I mean, I can't. I'm not there physically. I can't do the investigative work to find out, but from initial reports and video that I've taken, there were million. I mean, there was reported, India Times initially reported, which I reported, that there was 20 about 20 million users, China mobile users missing. So it was reported like in a business sense. It wasn't reported like on the mainstream media, but then little by little it started dripping out. So we don't really know what's going on. We don't really know. But we're very uncomfortable. I know that I am. I know people around me are. Um, Very, very uncomfortable. And then there's those, with how easy it was for people to give up their rights, and the big bad boogie monster, the big bad COVID monster, had to come and take everybody's right to oxygen away. So,
yeah.
uh, right to air, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm wondering if the preliminary to this happening was the fires, and that sort of shocked Australia. And then I'm wondering if then people were already sort of in a certain state where when COVID occurred, it just so happened to be that people were already induced because the fires sort of caused an inducing through the trauma that made
Mm,
it more easier for people
fear, right?
to buy
Mm,
the the pandemic thing. But what you said about the 20 million phones, I have a question about that I haven't been
mm.
able to have answered. If anyone out there knows, is I'd like to know if those 20 million mobile phone units were the new 5G purchases or just your everyday 3G, 4G mobile phones that were 1, 2, 3 or 4 years old. Because if they are in fact 5G devices, then that would indicate that if that was indeed an experiment,
Yeah.
then it would be involved in those who are holding a 5G device on their body person,
Hmm.
as opposed to just 5G being on
Hmm.
every street corner, beaming and weakening people until they drop dead.
Hmm.
Like one young lady appeared to be, over the cauliflower in a
Hmm.
grocery store.
Well, that interview will be out very soon. Actually, everybody, from what I understand, in China has one because of the social credit system that they have. The phone is basically like having this, a chip, so to speak, because all of your activity is monitored, so that you get a rating in your social credit system. So you're monitored in terms of what you shop for, what websites you visit, whether you follow certain anti-government, anti-communist, anti-CCP, you know uh, if you're an activist, anything like that, your social credit score goes down. So these phones were really, because Steve reported this when we were doing this, and Steve was saying how integral the phone is over in China, because it's the basis of monitoring everybody for that social credit score, the social credit system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, any news with
Wow.
do you have any news with Hong Kong or anything like that?
No, it's
Heard
been
anything?
pretty quiet. But then, I mean, I haven't sort of. consciously gone, let's go and have a look at see what's happening in
Yeah.
Hong Kong, because I'm sort of just looking at my feed coming in. So my information is feed reliant.
I see.
So on some levels, I think there are times where that can be manipulated, like if they shut down certain sites and that, and then I'm
Right.
not even aware of it, and then I'm just simply getting information that's not all the information, because, you know, it's like an algorithm to your own feed. So, you know, who knows? Like, I think that's probably
Yeah.
a real thing.
Yeah.
It's plausible.
Well, Sarah is
But
making a good point in our live chat. She says it makes sense what Tim said regarding multiple traumas and how it adjusts executive functioning. And that's, in a sense, so what happened with all these and in a sense, here in the United States, we had all these lockdowns, all these measures, and people being unemployed, businesses being closed. So it really had such a huge economic impact. Many businesses weren't able to recover from this, and a lot of people were put out of work and didn't have a way to pay their bills and didn't have a way to pay their rent, couldn't make car payments, couldn't buy food. There was a lot of people with problems, and so people were pretty rife. They were really ready. They were ripe for some sort of social justice, right? And of course, somebody comes along with an Antifa credit card, hands it to them, and says, "Okay, go do whatever." So these people who were doing all of this were uh, a lot of people, I would say, if you're were ripe for lashing out because they didn't have their eggs in order, they didn't have their affairs in order, they didn't have any money saved, they didn't have anything to fall back on, so they were
yeah,
looking to blame somebody. And of course, they and you can't always, and I'm not necessarily blaming them. Sometimes, if you're just getting started and you're younger, you don't have anything. And then of course there's always divorce, which leaves you with nothing. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people really were stuck in a bind, because there's no safety net whatsoever, in our country. If you don't have your own money, you're just, you're screwed. So, and it doesn't matter why, it doesn't matter if you've been victimized by somebody, if you were robbed, if you were hacked, if you had identity stolen. I mean, what all kinds of reasons why somebody just wouldn't have the ability to be prepared for a lengthy, long duration unemployment period. That's just not something most people who are basically living paycheck to paycheck, they just can't make it stretch,
yeah.
and it's tough. It's been pretty tough. I don't know what it's been like there in terms of businesses. Tim, have there been a lot of businesses that just that completely closed and just couldn't make it?
Yes, there's been a huge shift when especially back in April, when COVID first came out.
Hmm.
There was a lot of small businesses
Hmm.
were very affected. A lot of coffee shops, everything, and so the Social Security Centre, which is called Centrelink
Hmm.
over here, where people line up to this, government office to fill out forms and go on fortnightly benefits, or it's called, I can't think of what they call it now, but it's basically people actively looking for work, and they're obligated to look for work and show proof of putting in applications for employment whilst receiving, it's called New Start,
Oh,
New
okay.
Start allowance, which
Hmm.
is basically a social security payment that gets digitally put in their account once a fortnight, which I think is only something like, I don't know, 400 a fortnight or something. Maybe it's 600. I don't know. There's different types. But I saw all these people, like I'd drive down the road and
Hmm.
where the building is, and the buildings,
Hmm.
traditionally you would
Yeah.
see maybe one or two people out the front, and they might have been having a cigarette
Uh-huh.
on the street. But then suddenly you were looking at a queue running down the footpath, down the sidewalk, which could number anywhere from 25 to 50 people.
Mhm.
So it went from seeing no activity out the front of these buildings to large queues, like people queuing up for a nightclub to get in,
Oh.
or queuing up for the cinema. And I've never seen that before, ever, ever, ever. So that was a sight to see these people standing in these lines that I'd never seen before, and then the media went on a frenzy with it,
Why? Because they only allowed so many people in the store at once. Is that why?
No, it wasn't COVID related.
Oh, I see.
About how many people in the store, or it may have been, but I think it was more that there were just too many to have in there, because there were so many people trying to get in that the place was being swarmed by a sudden shift where there were so many unemployed and they're all trying to get in that the lines went out onto the street. So it was a huge change. Like if it was on a graph, it went from from here to off the chart of unemployment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember. I had something else.
Hey, did you happen to catch the presidential debate the other night?
No, but I saw a video by, is it Weird Bjelke Peterson or whatever his name is, Bjelke Peterson, that he 20 years ago or 30 years ago, he did the Michael Jackson takeoff about the food, just eat it. What's his name? Just eat it. Just eat it. Get a banana and eat it.
I thought it was it Weird Al Yankovic? Is that the guy?
That's it. Weird Al Yankovic has produced a video of Trump and Biden, and he's the question man, and he's singing, and it's just hilarious.
Oh wait, Trump and Biden and Wallace. Sorry,
I thought it might be offending to Trump slightly because he wasn't biased. He didn't seem to be biased. He was treating them both like they were idiots. So I couldn't publish that, but it was funny to watch.
Well, actually, I should say Trump, Biden, and Wallace, because as the president pointed out, clearly he was debating Wallace, and I think Wallace was. I think the president was ambushed. Quite honestly, I don't think he really expected such. I mean, he knows how bad the fake news media. He knows how rude they are in the press briefings. But this man was supposed to be unbiased. He was supposed to be neutral. And he wasn't. And the president knew this. He figured this out right away. And it really just, the president kept his ground. He stood his ground. And all it was just attacking. And it's really, they were so belligerent. They were just so belligerent. No matter what the president, are you willing to denounce, white supremacy? And the president said, yeah, sure. Yes, he's done it many, many, many times, but they wouldn't let it go. It's almost like they don't hear them. Like they're completely belligerent. And I think it backfired on them because Chris Wallace should be unemployed, in my opinion, at this point. But it just, it's sad. It's sad to see that, it's coming to this, but it is a power struggle. They want to keep control. They've lost control, and I don't think they're ever going to, clearly I don't think they're ever going to get it back. And they're going to give Trump the hardest time they could possibly give him,
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for our country.
Context. They're pushing the context because everyone's been brainwashed to believe that context.
Yeah.
And yet it's not even a real thing.
Yeah, the mainstream media narrative, exactly.
By the way, just before, when you said W supremacy, immediately after you spoke that word on this video, your audio it went like muted for about 4 seconds and before it came back. So I don't know whether that's just a coincidence.
Well, I probably shouldn't have said it then. I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's like it's arbitrary. You don't know what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say until they ban, give you a strike and remove your video. I mean, it's not like you deliberately ever violate community standards, because you just, it's so arbitrarily decided. And what I found out was that they actually manually review my videos. So it's not a matter of even, trying to get around algorithms, because we have apparently someone manually reviews our
Isn't it
reports.
amazing? I think the same with my videos. They seem to be manual.
Hmm.
And it's like, who sits
Hmm.
there and does that?
Yep.
And obviously, it has to be money in it, because if they, as a human being, are invested in actually listening to what we all have to say, they would see that there's some really valid points. But at the end of the day, I think it's like, well, I need money, and
Yeah.
I'm not to use my own discretion here. I'm here to do what they want me to do, so I get paid some money. So, it's really sad. That's what I think happens when these
Yeah.
humans are manually looking at them, because you think, how can they not turn on what they're doing and
Hmm.
have a conscience and say, what I'm doing is wrong?
Mm.
Having the power of censorship,
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
when
exactly.
they, on a deeper level, maybe they personally know that there's something bigger here. Or it's just mad. That's just crazy.
Well, earlier today I did a report with some really great self-help pioneers, Dr. Scott Werner and his wife Vicki Werner, and the topic of the conversation was about really trying to find a way to keep, no matter all the insanity that's going on in the world around us, Tim. You're such a spiritual guy, and it's so difficult to stay walking in the light, because it's so much going on around us that's really challenging our ability to take the higher road and stay on the higher road all the time, because it keeps bringing us down and stuff. And we have family and friends that you can't even, I mean, you can't even have these conversations with, right? So you get
Yeah,
more and more
yeah.
isolated, and people are just ready to snap like that. They're ready to blow their lid, and I've had my moments, because I just deal with a lot of media, and I it's so much negativity, but I have to go through it all because that's what I do. But they all carry, every report, every story carries a vibration, and so it does kind of. And of course, the actual imposition, the imposing of all these or I should say, the removing of all of our of rights, freedoms that we've enjoyed previously, that we are so inconvenienced about, and people are just so, they don't ever stop and question it. It's the most amazing thing. No wonder the world is in the mess that we're in. But the question that I have for you is, um, it's been challenging, and I know for you it's been challenging. You've talked about it many times, and I think I've seen a bit of a change in you over the past year, in kind of seeing how, I guess, how negative things have gone, and how controversial and how, or confusing, everything is just becoming. And there's family members we can't talk about with this. So what are you doing to try to keep yourself uh, sane and centered among
Well,
all of this? Because I know you're a very spiritual guy.
I'm still learning to keep my mouth shut in the wrong company, and that's been a huge lesson for me. So on some levels, the isolation, which is almost like a hermetism, if that, hang on, is that the right word? A hermit. I
Hermit.
don't know. Hermetism might mean something different in a dictionary, but I find I actually, on some level, I actually push people away, because I actually find um, it's like too many people, too busy, too noisy. So I like the simpleness of the quietness of
Mm.
the isolation and the very few. Obviously, like, here I am talking
Mm.
to you, and this is going to be seen by many. But like, even on my channel, when I read, sometimes I read the comments, sometimes I won't read any comments for 6 months, and then sometimes I'll go and read them, and I find I sort of read the positive things, and I go, well, that's nice. It's good that a lot of people, there's a lot of praise and recognition and people that agree, but then you get these people who are just nasty. And sometimes I read them, and often if I get triggered by what I read, to me, that means that there's something inside me that I haven't spiritually cleared up yet if I'm still attached to someone's negative opinion where they're on the attack. And if it really pisses me off, I have to do some healing therapy where I clear up what's that about? What is it inside me that's still attached to what that person says as if it matters? So the negative comments there are good for that. But yeah,
Well, no, but when
talk to my
somebody's
mother.
opinion does matter, like your family, let's say somebody in your family
Oh,
did
well,
something like really, really like was kind of like the most important thing to you, like they completely offended you and completely like
well,
drew the line
yeah.
in the sand. I mean,
Well,
and it's happening, it's triggering us.
I've offended my family, and if any of them are watching this, because I haven't spoken to many of them for over 3 years, and another sibling for 22 years or something,
Mm,
but they probably think that what I just said then is an offence to them. How dare he talk about family? Like, I haven't even mentioned names. People know what my surname is, so they can work it out. But oh my god, how dare him? So I'm probably already in trouble for what I just said.
mm,
Do you see the predicament?
mm,
But all I have left in my family is my mother and father.
mhm,
I have ostracized everyone else, and because they tend to disagree with what I say, and sometimes I've said something, or it might have been something I put up on Facebook. And I have family in medical. I mean, this happened 3 years ago, and it was before COVID. So even if it hadn't happened and it got delayed, I think my perspective on COVID would have created a family, um, a big shutdown in the family, because I have people that work in medical positions, and they would be upset about my views on it because I consider them to be self-brainwashed through educations into
mhm,
certain systems.
mhm,
Same thing I'm going through right now with work cover for my left knee torn meniscus, is that I have GP doctors that tell me that buying all these natural health supplements is a load of rubbish and nonsense, and I'd be better to save my money and only spend money that work cover will reimburse the receipts for.
mhm,
So save yourself some money. And I'm like, but doctor, I would buy these things even if I wasn't on work cover,
yeah,
because I'm into experimenting, because I'm open to different things.
yeah,
Well, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's not real. So, again, you have these people that are
right,
locked into certain views, and they think that I'm being naive or
mhm,
ignorant, when
mhm,
in fact I'm just simply not just agreeing with them and only doing what they want,
mhm.
which a lot of people would do. The doctor's always right. Do exactly what the doctor says. They know better than me because I know nothing.
Yeah.
But no,
Well,
it's a real big
yeah.
predicament. It's yeah. It feels like you're battling a perspective of reality, and it seems that or it seems like that it's me against a group of body. And so to me, the family represents a larger body consensus of mainstream reality. And then there's me, the black sheep, who has this view that's completely upside down and twisted in their perspective. And see, a lot of it's me projecting assumptions and speculations, but a lot of it is intuitively true, because you intuitively know and feel when someone doesn't think that what you're thinking is of a um, what is it, like a stable-minded, grounded perspective, that mine would be off the chart, sort of hippie, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely, definitely.
yeah.
Well,
So,
we're approaching our hour mark here, Tim, and so I just want to see if
okay,
things just keep it kind of short and sweet for now, and we'll try to get on the horn
sure.
again with Steve so we can do our AAA report, the America, Austria, Australia report, which I'm sure Steve would like to hook up with you, and we can do so. We can save some news for when we hook up. I think this was a probably would be better to do where it's usually nighttime when we
Yes.
we're always remember we had that blackout. Yeah, you guys had that blackout down in Australia, and you did the best you could to keep your internet going so we could finish the interview.
Yep. Well, due to that blackout, I now have a 3,500 watt generator that runs on petrol. I got to put petrol in
Yeah,
it every 5 hours, but I can run the
yeah,
whole house off it. I
yeah.
have a battery, a deep cycle battery that's got 7 hours of,
Oh, great.
well, if it was just phones on it in the last 3 days. But so yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for no power. I'm ready
Yeah.
for no food for a month,
Uh-huh.
and and I've got probably 350 liters of fuel.
Well, you were good with that.
I
You were
feel
good.
good.
I remember. I no, I remember messaging, and you're like, you're getting this, you're getting that, you're getting this. You were getting all ready. You were prepping, and it was
Well,
a good thing because
it
it could happen
feels good
anytime.
to do it. It feels good to know that if it did happen, not saying it will, but if it does happen, I've got it. And there's nothing wrong with having it because I can use it. Like I've had to, I need some fuel and I've got no time. I'll put it in here now, and that way I'm actually recycling it because I fill it back up and then I've got fresh petrol. So after 6 or
Yeah,
7 months, you then use it all and then you refill all your jerrys so that
yeah.
fuel's not becoming old. And I've already used my electrical generator to use a drill because I'm doing something in the back of my car. So I whipped it out and started it. So I'm using it. So I'm using it.
Yeah.
I'm using my
Cool.
things that I've bought without having some sort of prepper
Yeah.
event.
Well, it only takes one before you start really getting ready, right? And, it just
That's
seems
right.
like here on the East Coast, every time it rains, the power goes out. So we just have to we're, really prepared here quite often, actually,
Yes.
and batteries and all of that. But, it's always great to have an extra heat source if you can when it starts to get cold. Of course, you guys are going into your spring almost, you're going into your spring season now, aren't
Uh,
you?
Spring sort of almost we're sort of going not the normal spring where it's a
Uh-huh.
gradual warm up to the summer. We're going
Mhm.
it's suddenly summer heat,
Oh,
and then we're going into a cold snap and then getting snow, and then we're swinging back to a
what?
hot heat
Oh,
and then
yeah.
back to a winter and then bang and then now we're summer. So that's our spring at the moment.
Well, don't
There's
forget to
no
don't forget to plant your seeds and get your garden going so you can have some food in case you get more blackouts and stuff. And look, shortages. I
yeah.
mean, who knew? I mean, there was like a run on toilet paper in the United States here. I mean, everybody was everybody was dying for toilet paper. It was crazy.
Yeah, same here.
Crazy.
In reflection on that toilet paper thing, I'm wondering if that was actually a social experiment through transmitting subconscious subliminal messages or something
Here.
or some sort of frequency to see if people would respond. And so I think
Wow.
I could be wrong, but maybe the toilet paper frenzy, the weird toilet paper frenzy was some sort of secret, yeah, manipulation of the collective to see if they'd go and do that.
It's an
I wonder.
interesting. That's interesting
Yeah.
you said that, Tim. Very, very
Yeah.
interesting. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. I
Mm.
wouldn't be surprised. So
Yeah.
that was really kind of crazy. And then, and then there was like people hoarding it. It was like crazy. There were people hoarding it. Like, it was just everybody needs to get their toilet paper. So, but it really makes us, I think the thing that was so surprising for me was when there was no more food, like dairy and frozen foods, like there was nothing. And it just made us realize um, how incredibly, we went like 4 days. We had the hurricane come through here. And it was incredible how, we had no power for like 4 or 5 days. And that's just the time when you realize how incredibly I mean, you can go back to 1800 like that, in the snap of a finger, and you'd be completely out of gas, out of power. And it's amazing how our power sector has that much control over our life, and it's
Mm.
really it's really scary. But we'll save that for another time. We'll talk about that another
That's
time, because we're kind of
yeah,
heading at an hour here, and I don't want to keep people too long.
yeah. That's where you need an Amish friend. Is that how you say it? Amish?
Amish,
Amish. You need Amish
Amish.
friends then,
Yeah,
because
exactly,
they're
exactly.
living like that anyway.
Yeah. No, well, you know what they do? They don't they're off grid as far as I understand, and they use alternative, like wood burning stoves and things like that. And
Mm,
they grow their own food. They don't get vaccinations. They don't get sick much, really. They
yep.
don't get autism. How ironic. So,
Mm,
that's another conversation for another time. So, uh, we'll be checking in with Tim again soon, hopefully, with our friend, my co-host Steve, and see how that all goes. And look, just hanging down there, and I'm glad it's not that bad. It's I don't know what's going on in Victoria, but um, let's just hope that we can all get through this and stay sane, Tim,
yep. Nanu
somehow.
nanu.
So look, you have a great day down there. It's already Saturday. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's already Saturday, October
Right.
2nd there. And it's Friday, October 1st here, so it's getting late. And I don't want to keep
We're still in
anybody.
Friday.
Oh, you're Friday. I'm sorry. I'm in Thursday. I'm all
Yeah, you're in
confused.
Thursday,
Man, I
unless
don't
you've
know. I've
become
been
Friday.
doing
It's
I've been up since
it's
5 a.m. doing interviews. Forget it.
12:30 p.m. on Friday. Yep.
You're right.
Ish.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Well, it was good to see you, mate. Good to see
You
that you're doing
too.
good.
Yeah.
And we'll try to hook up with Steve soon, and we can do we'll get a little bit more report going there. And
Yeah.
but hang in there, hang in there. We're
Thank
all
you.
we're all in this together, right?
Yep, that's it. Yeah. Good things coming very soon. Like, as you know, I guess that's a thing for another talk. But yeah, all these things coming up very shortly.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
it's Red October, so buckle in, everybody.
Yeah.
It should be a very bumpy ride, but should be an interesting one. So, all right, Tim, good to see you, mate. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining us in our live stream. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.